Hello, good afternoon, everybody. Okay, I am back with, where are we now? Day 3 of our emergency summit for the wedding industry to do with all things COVID-19. And this is the second interview of the day for me. Earlier, we spoke to Lisa, who was talking to us all about the messaging for our company and what we really needed to be putting out there, how we needed to put it out there, what we needed to think about. And we did touch a little bit on how we were all feeling over this period of time. And that is exactly what we're going to be talking about now. And my next guest today is based in California. She's currently in LA, and as of midnight this evening, is now on lockdown along with me, which makes me feel a lot better. And it is Renee Dalo of Moxie Bright Events. So
Hi,
Renee,
everybody.
would you like to introduce yourself and just let everybody know a little bit about yourself?
Sure. So my name is Renee. I own Moxie Bright Events in Los Angeles. I've had that company for about 7 years now. I'm a wedding planner and designer. We do about 15 to 20 events a year now. When I started, we did about 35 events a year. So we're preparing down as the years go on. But I'm also a wedding industry educator and a public speaker, and I have a podcast and some online resources for wedding planners, like courses and other templates and things. So I keep busy is what I do.
You do indeed. And I know there was one thing that you were keen to mention just before we got into anything. Hi, Zoe. Nice to have you on here.
Hi, Zoe.
And that's the fact that you are not a trained therapist.
That
and
is
we just
correct.
want to put that out there. And we did talk about this yesterday when, not yesterday, day before, when Leah was talking about all things psychology. This is just the fact that you've done a lot of work on this, haven't you, over the past 15 years?
Yes, I was not always a positive person. We can talk.
Right.
We can get into that. No, I'm not a therapist. I like to say it's like, you know how we all watch Law and Order and think that we can become a police officer?
Oh, yeah.
That's how I feel about all my years of therapy. It's like, I've been doing this forever. No, I'm joking.
Yeah.
I would not be a therapist. But aren't we all a little bit of therapists to our clients?
I think so, definitely. I mean, as wedding planners, that does seem to be part of our role. And I think this is where a lot of wedding pros are struggling right now, is they need to be the strong person for their clients, but for themselves personally, they're having their own minor breakdowns and their own, crises going on in the background. And it's very hard to be that rock and that go-to person for your clients, but have all this internal stuff going on as well. So what can you tell us? What can you give us as far as how the hell do we deal with what is going on at the moment from a mindset perspective?
You know, we've never been here before, right? So we've never had, I'm sure everyone's been mentioning this all week, but like, obviously this is an unprecedented situation. And I think that the most important thing we can do is be kind to ourselves, because every 5 minutes something has changed in the news, right? And every hour we're getting new directives. And like you said, just last night at midnight, LA is on lockdown. So, you know, that's a whole new wave of like, oh God, okay, let's deal with this now. I think the most important thing to know about your mindset is that you can change it, right? A lot of when I started with this work for myself, you know, I had to come to terms with some deeper stuff. A lot of times mindset, and you know, mindset is like one of those buzzwords where you're like, oh, mindset. It's literally the way your mind is set. So I want to just make sure everyone gets that. Like, for someone who says like, well, I'm just not a positive person, that is your mindset. That is how you have set your mind. And sometimes it's not something that you've chosen. Sometimes it is a product of maybe your upbringing or your family or the people you spend the most time with. And you don't even sometimes know it's happening until you hear yourself say, oh God, did I just say that really horrible thing out loud? Did I just say that very negative thing out loud? Or is that just to myself? So I think the first thing to know with the mindset, especially in this really heightened time, is that like, you have to acknowledge how you're talking to yourself, right? The voice in your head, like the first thing to do is say like, am I being kind to myself? Am I saying helpful things to myself? You have to notice it first. Or someone has to tell you. In my case, my husband, when we first started dating, said to me one day, you're very negative. Just like that. He just like casually dropped it in. And I was like, what? I'm not negative. He's like, no, you say negative things all the time. And I was at first like, what? He's crazy. And then like in the next day I was like, oh, Oh, okay. I hear it. I hear it. And I didn't want to be a negative person. I didn't want to have my default be gloom and doom and complaining and everything's horrible. Like that's a really difficult way to go through life. Um, and so I just, because it's me, and I was like, I'm going to learn about this. And then I read like every single book in the world about mindset and realized that it sounds very overly simple to say, but you really can just change your mind. And so, in all of these days when we're so uncertain and we don't know what's coming next, I think the most important thing to remember is that you can choose your thoughts and you
Yeah.
don't have to choose the worst possible one.
But how? Because that's the hard part. It's like anything.
Yeah.
When somebody says to you, you can do this, it's easy, it's positive thinking, it's this, it's that. But how? Because with all the best will in the world right now, everybody is nervous. It doesn't matter who you are. We're all sitting there thinking, wow, okay, I have no idea how this is going to pan out. And because a lot of us are now self-isolating, you and I both, it's very easy now to sit there and get despondent and allow those negative thoughts to take you down a certain path, which obviously we don't want to do. But what can we do to stop ourselves doing that? How do we reboot? How do we change our mindset?
So I do a few different things depending on where I feel like I'm spiraling. Most important thing for me always is when I feel like I'm losing the battle with my mind, I always just go right to gratitude, right? Because even in these weird circumstances, there's still plenty to be thankful for.
Yeah,
and
okay.
sometimes it's just the most basic things. Like sometimes when I'm like, oh, gratitude list 5 things, it's like my house, my dogs, my husband, the sky, water. You know what I mean? Like just like the most basic 5 things you can think of. And sometimes that's enough to be like, yes, everything's fine. Everything's fine. Right. Sometimes it's much more detailed than that. But I do it before bed. Sometimes I do it just in my head. A lot of times I need to write it down. I have a little notebook by my bed and it's like gratitude, 5 things, 5 things. 5 things seem to work for me. Sometimes when it's like real bad, I'm just like listing everything in the world. I'm like, this pen, I love this pen, like whatever gets you out of that mindset that like everything is horrible. Because the truth is, like we see what we look for. And if you're looking for all the bad things, you're going to see them. But if you're looking for the good things, you're going to see them too. And you have to, like every other muscle in your body, retrain your brain. And so I do the gratitude list. When I'm in that place where I'm feeling super vulnerable about how I'm thinking, and this could be more difficult these days, is like I think about who I'm spending the most time with, right? Everyone has that friend, right? You go out to dinner with that friend and then you come back and you're like, oh, everything's horrible, because they think everything's horrible. And it's easier to do when we're it totally rubs off. Yeah. And then, obviously these days it's easier to not see those people, but also because we're isolating, and we're not meant as humans to be isolated from one another, especially if you're self-isolating and you're alone. Have a Zoom date, have a date with someone that is positive. My best friend, who lives 7 minutes away, who's also a wedding planner, yesterday we got on a Zoom call and we read from books. Can you see this book? The Year of Positive Thinking. I love this book. And Holly had one that was 14,000 things to be happy about. And we just like opened it up and started like, you tell me yours. And we just started reading stuff to each other because we both felt like yesterday felt real heavy. I postponed 6 weddings this week.
Which is a lot.
That's a lot. That's a lot. And, we have to remain positive for our clients, or at least we have to remain competent for our clients. And
it's what they expect of us.
Absolutely. And that's why they pay us, right? And normally they're paying us for our expertise because we've done this before. In this case, we haven't done it before, and we still have to lead with
which is a leadership. Lot of pressure, isn't it? That's the thing. And it is easy to go spiraling down that slope of negative mindset and not feeling good about yourself. I know for me, whenever I'm in that sort of scenario, I'm a great talker and I talk to myself and I talk myself out of the bad feelings. And it's almost like I have this you're going to think I'm absolutely insane now. I can't believe I'm saying this, but I have a 2-way conversation with myself.
No, I do that too.
It pulls me out of that negativity. And it's like, come on, Kylie, for God's sake, seriously, you can do this. And it's almost like I give myself that pep talk. And by the time I sit back down, I'm like, right, yeah, let's do this. I'm good.
Yeah. Yeah. You're going to think I'm crazy. So my negative self-talk has a different name. Like, she's not Renee. I don't want to tell you. I've named her something else. I don't want to tell you the name because it's my mother's name.
Okay, fair enough. I won't make you tell me the name. Okay.
Yeah. So when all that is happening, it's like, nope, that's her, and she needs to shut up now. And sometimes it has to be that. Like, it has to be that go to Sassy Susan with yourself and be like, that we have no time for that right now. And that's kind of what it was for me this week. I joked to my husband that I was like just working on adrenaline. I was like, we're just going to get through it for these people, for these clients who have paid me to be their guide here. Like, we're just going to get through it. And every time negative voice would show up, I'd be like, nope, not right now, because it doesn't help me. Right. I only want to do the things that help move me forward, help move me into action. Right. Because, thoughts create our actions, actions create our lives. And if we've got all these negative thoughts and we're doing negative actions, where's that going to leave us when this is all resolved? Right.
That's the problem, because there's going to be life after this. And I was talking about this earlier with Lisa, and it's about what's going to happen after COVID-19. This is only going to last for so long. It's not going to last for an entire year. At the end of the day, we're talking 30, possibly 60 days, but within 90 days, we're going to be back to normality again. We're going to be working within our businesses again. So there is an end to this, but I do realize that it is hard to think in that way when you're stuck where you are right now. And of course, it's not just the thoughts, it's the language that we use as well.
Yes. I'm a huge, word nerd is what I always say. I'm a language nerd. I mean, even in the best of times, we have to be willing to positive self-talk ourselves, right? One of the things I started doing this week when I was feeling really weighed down by all this responsibility, and I found myself saying, and is, a lot of this is I've made the mistake, so I'm telling you not to do it. But my husband said, what do you have to do today? And I was like, oh, I have to call blah, 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 blah. And I thought, oh, you know what? I don't have to. I get to help my clients in this way. I get to do this work, because let's be honest, this business that I've built came out of nothing, out of my brain. I decided I wanted to do this and I made it happen. So I'm super grateful every single day that I'm even here talking to you. What is this life that I get to live, right? This is it's very amazing that this even happens for any of us who are business owners. And so I had to change that and I put it on my computer right here. I get to. I don't have to. I get to help my clients in this way. I get to be this trusted person for them. I get to be there for these vendors who are going through things, right? I get to be here for other wedding planners who need someone to talk to. And I think that was such a positive shift for me this week. I'm all about not using limiting language, generally speaking, but I couldn't quite grasp onto what that meant in this season. And for me, it's I get to.
That's really wise words, because negative words immediately put you on that downward slope. And I remember something my dad always used to tell me. Now, my dad's still alive, so I shouldn't say used to, but it was something he told me when I was younger. And he was a salesman, and a really good salesman too. And I remember when I had a stint, it was horrible. I had a stint as a telesalesperson. I don't recommend it to anyone. It was really hard. And I remember telling him about this particularly hard day I'd had. And he said to me, Kylie, my darling, are you smiling down the phone? I remember looking at him and thinking, are you talking about smiling down the phone? He said, I'm telling you now, if you smile down the phone, people will hear it. And I remember at the time thinking to myself, well, that's a load of crap. But it's not. It is so true. Because people can hear when you're smiling. People can feel when you're smiling, even if it is down the phone, as it was with telesales. Mm-hmm. So I think that's another big thing that you can do to put yourself in a more positive frame of mind. Yeah. Even if you don't feel like it, smile. Because it does make you feel better. It makes other people feel better. And when they can feel that radiating off of you, they send those positive vibes back in your direction again.
Absolutely. The thing about the smiling into the phone is so funny. As an experiment, just do it at some point, put on your little voice memo on your phone and say a sentence straight face and then say it with a smile. My assistant always laughs at me because when I record the podcast intro, I'm always like, And she looks at me like, no one can see you. I'm like, it's not about that people can see me.
Yeah.
It sounds different. It sounds more pleasant when you smile. Other things that I think can get us through this time is like, be aware of the voice in your head. Also be aware of what you need as a human. Like
Yeah.
one of my friends yesterday said, we were texting and I said, how are you doing today? And she's like, well, I hadn't been out in the sun. So I went out in the yard and I put myself in the sun like a plant.
Very good advice. In fact, one of the people who's watching right now, Gillian, is saying she's sitting in the sunshine in North Scotland. Birds are singing. Signs of spring are all around. Difficult to remain despondent. There is hope. Life will go on. So absolutely. Yes. I love the idea of putting myself out in the sun like a plant.
She said it and I laughed. I laughed so hard, and then I was like, I haven't put myself out in the sun like a plant yet. I'm going to go do that. And you know what? My dog was doing it. He was out there all laid out, and I was like, this is what we need. She understood in that moment what she needed was sun.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, hopefully it's sunny for everybody. It's certainly been sunny here for the last couple of days, but it does make a difference. It puts you in a better mindset. And if you aren't housebound, if you aren't under lockdown, I mean, we are allowed to go out walking, but that is another thing I tend to find that really re-energizes me, refocuses me, and puts me in a better mindset is when I go and take my dog for a walk. I'm lucky. I live in a beautiful area, and it is just so good. You feel so much better. I come back feeling pumped and psyched, whereas when I went out, I might not have been feeling so good, but by the time I've got back, I feel a lot better. So I think sometimes it's just that ability to be able to get up, walk out, do some exercise. It doesn't necessarily have to be going for a walk, but some form of exercise gives you those positive vibes that you need as well.
Absolutely. And then, if you can't get out and you're starting to feel like you're spiraling, I really like the Calm app. Do you guys know this? CALM, the Calm app? It's a meditation app.
Yeah.
I'm normally not someone who meditates, y'all. I'm from New York City originally. My inner tempo is like go, 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 go. Like I said, I go on adrenaline sometimes.
I didn't think you were a SoCal girl.
God, no. No. I'm from New York City and I lived there until I was, 20 years ago. But I'm not gonna tell you how old I am, but but I've been in LA for like 19 years. So I'm like a honorary Southern California now, but no, my normal energy is pretty fast. And so meditation is like not a thing that I was ever really interested in, but in these days, it has been very helpful to get on the Calm app. And they do you can do a 5-minute meditation. You can do a 10-minute. I mean, they have really long ones, but for me, like a 5 to 7 minute one where I'm just sitting with my eyes closed and breathing. Like when's the last time we all took a deep breath? Like a really deep breath,
Yeah.
And sort of forcing myself to do that has been very helpful with the mindset too, because when it's just you and your thoughts, you can hear them more clearly. And if they're negative, you can go, nope, not right now. Not right now. Come back later or not.
A lot more in control, aren't you? When you don't have all that noise going on in your head, it's harder. I mean, another thing I tend to do, which works quite well for me, is music. I mean, I'm a classically trained musician. From another life, I played violin and piano, and that's what I grew up doing. But for me, music just puts me into a whole other zone. And I've told some of my students this before, but whenever I'm getting ready to go on stage and speak or to do any kind of webinar or masterclass or anything like that, I have particular pieces of music that I put on. Nobody is allowed to come into the room. And I have them on really loud and fling myself around the room. And by the time I've finished, I feel like I could conquer the world. So that just gets me to a point where I'm so completely and utterly pumped up and motivated. It's brilliant.
Yeah, I have a Spotify playlist that's just called Get Pumped Webinar because it's what I play before webinars.
Yeah.
And it's like insanely not aggressive in a bad way, but just like very girl power music. And I play it very loudly. And I mean, you have to do that for yourself, I think. My background is musical. I used to do musical theater. So I get that. It's like any of these things that just sort of shakes you out. I also want to say this. I know this isn't particularly mindset based, but we all need to stop watching the news on a 24-hour cycle.
Yes.
And I keep saying that anytime anyone, gives me an opportunity. It's like, listen, we're not meant to be watching the news just because they have a 24-hour news cycle doesn't mean that there's 24 hours worth of news. 90% of that is someone else's opinion that they're being paid to tell us to make us crazy. Do what serves you, turn it off. Like I'm only listening to like the mayor when he comes on to do like a Facebook Live, like a live stream, like press conference, and the CDC website. Those are the only two things that pertain to me and my clients. Everything else is like rhetoric and BS, and I don't need it. I've decided for myself, I don't need it.
Definitely wise advice. And I think to a degree as well, staying off of things like Twitter, where there's just so much noise and you can get so sucked into these things. You see one thing and you think it's almost a bit like being able to self-diagnose on some of these websites that you can go onto. And my daughter,
don't get me on WebMD because I have everything.
Oh,
that's ever been able to have. Yeah.
My daughter has found out, good mum, I think I've got whatever it might be. And I'm like, no, darling, you don't have that. Have you been on that website? Yes, I have. It's a similar type of thing where really you need to, as you say, switch off from all of that noise, because all it takes is to see one thing that takes you spiraling back down, and all that hard work you've done to put yourself in this great positive mindset suddenly goes out the window. So I think also monitoring your social media is another thing. I mean, Facebook is another one. There's a lot of stuff that keeps popping up on my Facebook feed. So I am literally going on in the morning and going on in the evening, and I'm avoiding it all day because I don't want to be drawn down that rabbit hole of, oh my God, this is going to happen, that's going to happen, the other's going to happen. I don't need it. My brain's doing enough without any other encouragement. So
it's really true. But I want to talk a minute about mindset and our clients, like how we can be there for our clients, because I think something that came up for me this week with postponing all these 6 weddings is, I've been married, and I remember after my wedding, which was great, like the next day and the day after, I had like I had the blues, like I was weirdly depressed. Like we had this amazing event, and then the week after I was really low. And I remember saying to my husband, like, I don't know what this is. And then I went to the internet, and everyone who had ever been married was like, yeah, that's a real thing. Our clients who have postponed or canceled, they're going to have the blues, but they're not going to have the amazing day. And I think we need to be there. We need to acknowledge that for them and tell them that it's okay, right? It's okay to mourn the day that you didn't get to have. It's okay to be bummed that this is happening, and it's out of all of our control, and that's okay to have feelings about it, and like encourage them to lean on one another and their family. And in one case, like we have one of my brides, very this is not a negative thing, but she's very emotional. Like every decision we've made has been an emotional choice for her. Even before this, like she cried when she found the right photographer. She cried when she found her dress. Like she's just highly emotional. We created a Google form for her to send to the guests after we said, look, this wedding isn't going to be happening March 22nd. We're going to push it to September. But we've created this Google form that we called love letters to Danielle and Chris, having that the guests could write them a lovely note in place of being there together in a week. And it was really helpful for her, because she needed that. She was really looking forward to seeing all of her friends and family in one place. We've been planning this for a year. And for me, I thought, and that was one of her bridesmaids' ideas. It came to me and said, I think we should do this for her. And I was like, you know what? That's great. Not every client's going to need it or want it, but as our job as support for them is to acknowledge that, like, yes, your feelings are valid. You're allowed to be bummed. Lean on each other. Let's look forward to this new happy day that we have if they've postponed. But also acknowledge that, like, they're going to have these feelings. Like the day that was supposed to be their wedding, that's going to be a big day for them. I would say you should send them something, but everything's now closed in LA. So even the Flower Mart closed this morning. So I can't send anything except a lovely email at this point.
But you know what?
Which I'll be doing.
Just as much, that's just what they need. Like you said, it is about knowing that someone is there for you. It's about knowing that actually the feelings that you're having are okay. And I'm sure that a lot of them will be at that point where they're thinking, this isn't normal. I shouldn't be thinking these feelings because there's X, Y, Z going on in the world right now. But the point is this is personal to them. So, everybody's got their thing that's going on that's personal to them and something they might have to miss out on. And I said this the other day, but as far as my husband's concerned, the world has ended because the football league has been cancelled and his team were about to get promoted. Not anymore. But, you know, everybody's got their thing. That's the point.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, however trivial other people might think it is, for you, it's a big deal. So do you have any tips on, you know, things you can be saying as far as mindset is concerned to help those clients who really are devastated by what's happened and are struggling to put a positive mindset on things?
Yeah, I have one particular client who didn't, most of my clients were very sort of not chill, but they were very understanding that it was no one's fault. And I had one client who really is still sort of struggling through, and I had to sort of help them. I had to help them gain perspective, because what they were very upset that it wasn't going to go according to their plan, and they had plans, and these plans were ruined, and they want everything the same, and they want you know, they wanted to switch a Saturday to a Saturday, and they wanted everyone to do everything that they wanted without any penalty. And I understand that mindset, but also, you know, we're advocating not just for our clients but for our vendors. And so I had to sort of tell them, like, hey, just so you know, some of my clients are having to move their wedding to Thursdays or Monday. And then they were like, oh God, well, we don't want to do that. We'll take a Sunday. And I was like, yeah, you will. Because they didn't have any perspective, right? I mean, they had no perspective. They were only living in their own experience. And I was able to provide, look, other couples are having to pay $7,000 for another Saturday. Other couples that I'm working with can't get any dates in 2020 from their venue. You are so lucky. You get to have a date that is a Sunday in a few months. Isn't that wonderful? Right. And sometimes it's really just giving them that positive mindset and giving them the perspective of, like, you know, to be quite honest with you, one of my grooms has the coronavirus. He's relatively fine. You know, he has a cold, a flu. But from what I understand, he's fine. And when I told this couple that was struggling, look, one of my couples that is postponed is actually sick.
It does kind of put it into perspective, as you say, doesn't it?
You know, I mean, I didn't want to use that as like a bargaining tool, but I was also like, this is the reality. You know, you guys in the grand scheme of things are really fortunate, and let's remember that. You know, one of my friends, Amber Anderson from Refine, she's been saying for the last few days, like, look, guys, weddings are a luxury. Not everyone gets to have this. And although I don't think I'd say that to my clients outright, I think the attitude still is, look, we've come to expect that weddings are this way now, but that it wasn't always the case. And the fact that we still get to celebrate in the future in that same great way, all it just means is that when we get there, it's going to be even better. It's going to feel even sweeter and more emotional and more amazing to be connected again. And, you know, that's something I'm telling not only to my clients now, but I've still been doing consult calls for new weddings. And that's the thing I say to them. I said, look, we don't know when this is going to be over, but whenever it is, those parties are going to be epic. Because that's the truth. I mean, that's the only thing we can only think to the future. I think. And I know for me, when I was feeling really low the other day about, I'm really someone who loves to travel, and I had some big travel plans to take my husband to Italy this year.
Yes.
And that's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. And so I started making, in my little gratitude journal, I made a list of like all the places we're going to go once this is over. And it was literally just like, it was everything from like Italy to like Griffith Park, which is like 2 miles away, you know, like all the places we're going to go when it's over. And I just think, for our clients, it's important that we, you know, remind them that good times are still ahead. Acknowledge that right now it's going to feel heavy, and that is what it is, but try to kind of coach them through it if you can. But also in the midst of all this, like, let's protect our own healthy boundaries, right? Like, let's protect ourselves. I remember one of these days in this past week, I don't know, this week feels like it's been a year. I literally worked from like 7 a.m. to 10 p.m. And then my husband took my laptop out of my hands and I crawled into bed and I just passed out. And I was like, okay, well, that was not a healthiest choice I've ever made, because when we're giving and we're giving and we're giving, it's easy to deplete ourselves. And so now at 6, I'm like closing the laptop and being like, it can wait till tomorrow. It can literally wait till tomorrow because nothing's happening.
You're absolutely right. You do have to set boundaries. And I think one of the problems now is because so many people are working from home, we're self-isolating. it's actually just a default now to, oh, well, I may as well, I'm here, I've got my laptop, I may as well work. But as you say, it gets to the point where you're no use to man nor beast. You aren't any good to yourself. And actually, you're much more likely to fall ill when you push yourself to that point where you can't see straight. And I know I am certainly somebody who is guilty of that. And I've got to the point now where I really have set firm boundaries around what I do. I realize in situations like this, obviously, as we said, things are a little bit different. We are pushing ourselves a lot further. And of course, we want to be there for our clients. I want to be there for the industry. But as you say, you do have to set those boundaries around yourself, because you're not going to be any use to anyone if you're not well either. And most of this can, as you say, wait till tomorrow. It's not life or death.
Everything's closed, y'all. Wait till tomorrow.
This is
that vendor's working from home too. She'll get back to you tomorrow. I mean, my dad always says this, and I think he says, I think this suits my particular personality. I always wonder, like, what was it like to raise me as a child? Because I'm so stubborn. He says, nothing else good is going to happen today, Renee. Go to bed. Like, at a certain point in the day, only bad things will start happening. Just go to bed. Like, we've used up all the good, which I always think is a very funny thing. Like, just go to bed. Everything else from this point on is not gonna help you. The other thing too that I've started doing, and I've started doing this a very long time ago, but you know, everyone talks about like the miracle morning, or like starting your day the right way, and that feels very like a lot, right? It always feels like that's intense to like set up a whole morning routine and never deviate from it.
That's what I started
doing. It's a lot of pressure, right? And like, I'm not a morning person. Like, it's amazing that I'm even here with my hair and makeup on. Like, this hasn't happened in 2 weeks. But instead of doing like an overwhelming sort of morning thing, what I just started doing is like creating little positive habits that support a specific positive thing I'm trying to change, like a mindset that I'm trying to change. So like, I'm really not a morning person. Like, my poor husband, he gets up at 5 a.m. He's also like a stand-up comic. He's always trying to tell me jokes in the morning, and I'm like, no, thank you. I'm closed for humor right now. But if there is something that I have to do in the morning, right, and create a more positive mindset around being awake, I have developed over the years like certain things that I do when I need that mindset, right? So it's like, I get up, I drink a full glass of water, I take my vitamins, I shower, I do my hair, I do my makeup, I put on real clothes. Like, putting on real pants, it's like a very positive thing, right? You put on real pants and that changes your mind. You go, oh, I'm in work mode now. Or like, I do all of this tiny little morning ritual of just getting myself together, and suddenly I'm in a space where I want to be seen and see people and have people see me, even if it's only through a camera. So it doesn't have to be a full everyday big thing, but if you're trying to fix a mindset about something, changing like an actual physical action and attaching it to it can be the thing that just helps that one thing, because you don't have to change everything all at once. It's just baby steps.
That's very true. And it's the same with everything, you know, anything that you're trying to change, whether it's mindset or whether it's something within your business. If you try and take this one huge goal and do it all at once, it seems insurmountable. It gets to a point where you think, I am never going to be able to do that, which immediately gives you a negative mindset. Whereas if you break it down into much smaller steps and smaller goals, it's so much more achievable. And I think something a lot of us are guilty of is setting a goal to do something, and if we don't achieve it immediately, we give up on it. So,
well, especially type A wedding planners, are you kidding? All of us are like, either it's perfect or it's shit. And we're like, well, that's not a thing. That can't be right. How could we live our lives that way, right? We have to like get ourselves out of that mindset too.
Right.
The other thing too, like it's often not lost on me that the people who need the mindset changes are the ones who are most resistant to it. So if you're listening to this at any point and you're thinking, oh, this is a bunch of BS, like you can't change your mind about things, it's not that simple, I can't do it, then you're probably the one who needs the mindset the most. And so because I know I was like, I'm not negative. That's ridiculous. I'm great. What's crazy? And then a day later I was like, oh no, I'm that person. So you don't have to stay that person. It doesn't have to be your personality. I love when people say, that's just not who I am. Well, okay. It's not who you are today, but it can be who you are in the future. You know, I think the mindset, once you do the mindset work, whether it's happiness, money mindset, any of these things that you need to work on, success mindset, like once you do the work and actually do the mindset changing, your life changes. And then you go, oh, I get it. But until you've done it, you think there's no proof, right? You can't be like, well, that's not going to work for me. It actually does. You just have to do it.
Yeah.
I know it sounds so simple, but it's so much, it goes so much deeper.
I think there are a lot of things like this sound simple, and really they are, but you've got to want to do it in the first place. It's like anything, isn't it? It's like giving up smoking. It's like, losing weight,
Yeah.
whatever, wanting to work out more. You've got to really want to do it in order to achieve it. And I think that's one of the biggest things about mindset is you've got to want to change your mindset. You've got to be open to that fact. You've got to be open to the fact that actually you might not be perfect. And as much as it pains me to say, we're not perfect, any of us. I think and as most people do, but we've all got our failings and we've all got those things that we need to change. Mine is definitely the whole diet thing. I will never lose weight. It is just the way it is. But I don't want to, and that's the thing. I
just really like cheese,
and I love cheese, and I love wine, and I love bread. So it is never going to happen.
I'm sorry, you're living in France, so if you didn't eat any of those things, that would be a horribly wasted opportunity. I mean, come on.
I couldn't agree more. Well, as we wrap this up, what would you like to leave everybody with? What would be your takeaway advice for everybody?
I would say start listening to your own thoughts and acknowledging your thoughts and thinking, does this thought serve me or hinder me? Does it help me or does it hinder? And if it hinders, get it out of there and replace it with a different one. If you find yourself saying things like, I have to, or feeling very heavy about the things you have to do, especially for your clients, just try to flip that one thing in your mind from I have to I get to. Listen, we have to stay in our houses, or I get all this time. This is a gift of time, this isolation period. It doesn't always feel that way, but it's about these little tweaks that you can, tell yourself in your head. And then I would say, watch who you're surrounding yourself with. If you're self-isolating with someone who isn't a very positive person, acknowledge that. Perhaps your new positive ways will rub off on them. And then if you need to, make dates like this with people that are positive, and surround yourself with like little books and little things that you can sort of hold on to and just help you guide you through your day. I also want to say this. If this mindset stuff feels great, but not enough, if you feel like the thoughts you're having are very destructive, if you feel like you're kind of spiraling in a way that's unhealthy, go talk to someone. I know we can't physically go, but I'm in therapy every week, and my therapist is online, and it's a company called Better Health. And they've given me like a free week for anyone who wants to try it. So if you go to reneedalo.com/better health, it's online therapy. It's an hour. It's really reasonably priced, much, much better priced than you would get if you went in person. And, sometimes we just talk about my clients.
Fair enough. I can understand, but that's it. It's about looking after yourself, and sometimes that's what you need to vent about. And it does you good to get these things out. And I absolutely agree with you. It's one of the reasons why we've put this summit on, is to give people a place to come, to give them something to listen to allow them to see, what, we are all feeling the same things. None of us know what's going to happen. It is scary for all of us, but at the end of the day, we will come through it. There is going to be life after this, and we are going to have businesses after this. And as Renee said earlier, we're going to have one hell of a party when this is all finished.
It's going to be epic, you guys.
Absolutely. So really now it's about just this small portion of time that you have to manage. You have to get yourself through. So the more positive you can be, the better it's going to be for you in the long run, the better it's going to be for the people around you, for your clients, etc. But anytime you're feeling down, you really need to jump online. And like Renee was talking about earlier with the Zoom call she did with her best friend, was it today? Yesterday. Things like that make such a difference. So if you need to be perked up, if you're a student at the academy, go into our student Facebook group. You know how many people are in there. We've, 800 odd students in there. You're all wonderfully supportive. So jump on, do a live, have a vent if you need to. It's open for you to do that. And there's plenty of other groups like that as well, which you can jump into, let people know how you're feeling, and there will always be somebody there to help you. There always is. There's more people that are willing to give than those that aren't. That's something I've learned through this experience, is actually the human race is not so bad after all. So,
absolutely.
Renee, thank you so much for getting up early and putting on your makeup and all those things I know you don't want to do first thing in the morning. I do appreciate it. It has been an absolute pleasure to talk to you. We've had some lovely comments from Amanda and Angela.
Oh, hey, Amanda.
Yeah, Amanda's been talking to you throughout this on the comments, and Gillian has been sunning herself in her garden. Malika has been commenting as well. So we've really had some great people interacting with us here today. So thank you all very much. I will not be streaming over the weekend. As Renee has said, we have to set boundaries. And I sleep over the weekend because it has been full on. But I will be back on Monday. Monday, I have Michelle from Sage Wedding Pros.
Oh, I love Michelle.
Someone else who slipped my mind right now, but there's two people I will be chatting to on Monday. All you need to do is just jump onto the Academy website, and in our menu is a page called COVID-19. Click on that and it will show you all the speakers, and also it will give you links to the videos for the speakers I've already chatted with. So Renee's will be up there live within about the next 20 minutes. Lisa this morning is up there, as is all of the other wonderful people that I've spoken to so far this week. So you can binge watch those, you can enjoy it. But that page is the hub for everything that's happening around the summit. So Renee, thank you very much. Have a fantastic Friday. And to all of you that are watching, have a great weekend. And at the end of the day, go home, well, you probably are home, sit down and have a nice large glass of wine or whatever your tipple of fancy is, and gratitude, be grateful. Remember all the good things and positive things that are happening in your life, just as Renee said. Great advice there. All right, I will see you guys on Monday. Have a great weekend and enjoy. See you soon.